I had a quick question. At that time, there was only like obviously a selected few of brands. Mm-hmm. So were there like the board sales pretty different back then as far as like were there a lot of boards selling, so to say?
Well, I didn't really have any idea what I was coming into. So it's like I just remember being in Europe and my mom's like, hey, you got a check in the mail. You know, at the same time, like, hey, when you get back from summer camp, are you going to go back to college? Because I got out of high school. And it's like, hey, you got to go to college. And I'm like, I don't really want to go to college. But okay, so I went for a year, went to community college with Brian Brannon from JFA. So he's one of the first dudes I met when I moved to Arizona. So it's like him and I at college together. And I'm just kind of feeling my way through things and did actually pretty good in my business class, which is kind of awesome, which helped a bunch when I started 90 just because it gave me kind of a focus.
Okay.
So anyways, my mom's like, hey, you know, when you come back, you can start college. But anyways, you got this check in the mail from Sims. Like, what's that for? I'm like, it's for my board sales. And she's like, it's kind of a large number. What do you mean board sales? I'm like, you know the board that I got in the mail that has the mad scientist on it? She's like, yes. And I'm like, well, people buy those. It goes in the skate shop, and then people go in there and buy the board. She's like, well, you just got a check for $11,000.
Yes.
And I'm like, what? Wow.
You're in Europe at this point.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm like, I'm freaking out. Like, how is that possible? You know? And that just happened month after month.
So
I remember,
sick.
Yeah. And it was just, I mean, I didn't expect any of it, you know?
Again, it goes back to going back to that time. Like again, like the graphics were so like bold and so risque. Like where you're just like, wow, these are. So yours stood out quite a bit.
Thank you.
I mean, and I remember specifically.
It was a plan.
Is it this one?
Both of these.
Both of them.
But this one, obviously, I think
the scientist
stood out
was the first one.
That stood out a little bit more for me.
Yeah.
Because that was just when I first started skating. So I definitely remember seeing that on the wall.
That's awesome. That's awesome that you remember that.
Yeah.
I love the fact that your mom had no idea what was like. Were your parents supportive in the skating that you were doing? I mean, it sounds like they didn't kind of know what was going on with you.
No, the skate park was my babysitter. So my mom would just drop me off there, like, Mom, you need to come pick me up. She's like, I'm watching Days of Our Lives. You're gonna have to wait another 45 minutes. I'm like, all right, no problem.
Or watching General Hospital.
Yeah, or there's fair traffic today, so you're gonna have to go over and stay at your friend Owen's house. So it's like, okay, fine. But I would just spend all of my time and just be at the skate park.
And then this check shows up.
Yeah,
and she's like, what is going on?
My mom showed up at one contest at Del Mar, and it made me cry because I remember coming out of the pool and seeing her, and I just won the contest. I was like,
wow.
No way.
Yeah, so that was kind of cool.
That's so rad.
But it was just something I did, you know?
Yeah.
What I mean? Like, that's what you're doing. Like, when are you going to grow up? Like, when are you going to, you need to get back into college? I'm like, she's like, what do you think you're going to do? I'm like, me and Tony and Lester are going to travel around the world skateboarding. Like, that's what we're going to do.
It's a pretty good gig.
Especially when those checks keep coming in at that number.
Yeah.
Like, after 3 months, your mom's got to be like, all right, you go.
And we're talking about...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, we're talking about the late 80s, right?
Yeah,
I mean, like, that's a lot of money.
That is
it was ridiculous.
definitely a lot of money.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That's like getting like a $40,000-$50,000 check today or something like that. Like inflation. I don't know.
And so the board goes for a while, and then I have an idea for my second graphic, and I remember Brad going, Brad Dorfman's like, I don't know if this one's going to work. And I remember the rest of the guys going, let him do what he wants. It seems like he knows how this thing works. So the pirate dropped, and that went completely crazy right away too.
This is the pirate.
Yes.
Love it.
I love how colorful they were back then.
Well, see, and that was a very important. But I mean, I actually went. You know, a lot of that stuff is all planned out. You know, like I need a treasure chest. I want a snake to say my name. You know, like so all these weird things I'd pick out. You know, he's got to look this way. He's got to be more. You know, the first one I got, I'm like, that one's too cartoony. It's got to look more evil.
Are you drawing these, or you're giving the ideas to?
No. I wish I could draw this shit in my head. But I've been very lucky to have friends that know me well enough where they put it together. And Lucero was easy for the mad scientist because when his Joker board came out on Madrid, like that was one of my favorite boards. And plus, John is always one of my favorite people. Like I loved skating with him. Like it was. One of the Whittier contests, my friend Todd Joseph and I actually stayed at his house. There were so many dudes at his house that me and my friend had to sleep in his Volkswagen Beetle in the backyard. And I remember, like, it was horrible. I hardly even slept and I had to go to the contacts the next day. And even though I was little, like, you couldn't lay out straight. Like, just
Small
another
car.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
another ridiculous skateboard story. I mean, we always
love that.
have those
Nice.
throughout the years. But
That's what makes it exciting and fun. You're
Yeah.
uncomfortable at the moment, but you look back at that and you're like, dude, we slept
Yeah.
in the backyard of Lucero's
Yeah,
house,
exactly.
like in a VW bus. You know,
yeah,
I mean,
exactly. Like, I still remember it. It's like, yeah, you just cherish those times so much. But I mean, I knew when this was going on, like, this is insane. This is really happening. Like, we're skateboarding, just doing whatever we want to do. It's great.
Just living in the moment.
Yeah.
I do wish that the board graphics nowadays would kind of hold up like the old, like in the past. You know, I think nowadays it's a turn and burn system,
Right.
And there's not that many graphics that just kind of are iconic anymore and just stick around. I mean, the one that I brought up earlier was like the Muska graphic. Like,
Right.
those are few and far between.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't just happen all the time. And when maybe it's just there's just so many companies out there, and everybody's
It is.
competing
It's-
for shelf
Yeah.
space.
They are, exactly.
So, I mean, I get it, but like to have a board out for, I mean, your first board, how long was that out for? Like,
I
probably
think-
well over a year.
Yeah, maybe
No,
2
a couple
years.
Two
before I
years?
dropped the-
Wow.
Yeah, I think
2 years,
2
three-
before I dropped the pirate. Yeah.
And then that Pirate Out was out for probably a couple years
Yeah.
as well.
Till I went to the Genie. Yeah.
So yeah, how many boards in total?
30.
Okay.
Quite a few.
Yeah.
But I mean, just these guys right here, I mean, after it, there's a whole story that goes on throughout the boards. You know, like I'd do these and then I would do a mini board. So I'd add the two characters together and they would go on a journey. So if you put all the boards together, it's a journey. I'm telling a story.
Wow.
That's pretty sick.
At the time, did a lot of people know that? Or was it just kind
I
of like,
really don't know. I never talked about anything. This was just something I wanted to do. Like I had all these different characters that I loved and I wanted to use. And I just, in my head, like I've got 6 graphics that haven't even come out yet. And I'm just hoping people do not pick these characters. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of how it went.
it's not like if you put the boards side by side, it would tell a story, but each board told the
Right.
story of,
Yeah, like you got the scientist and then the pirate, and then they become friends. And then they've got to go on they're going on a tour. They're going across the 7 seas, and then all of a sudden,
Sounds
you know,
like
they
some
meet the-
Marvel movie or
Yeah,
something
I know.
like that. Like Iron Man.
Dude,
meets
that's
this
totally
guy.
what it is. And then they meet the genie, and then the next board comes out, and they're all on the magic carpet because
Yeah.
the genie's taking them on a trip. You know, so and so me thinking this way, it was so much fun for me to do it, and it was so much fun to get together with my friends and do the graphics. You know, so
and I'm sure the companies appreciated that too, because they had a storyboard laid
Yeah.
out. They didn't
Yeah.
have to like think of something to do for you.
Right.
Totally.
No, there was never like, oh, we need to come up with a graphic for Kevin. That was not even a possibility. Everything had to be exactly the way that I wanted it.
Wow.
And to backpedal a second, the reason these graphics and skateboard graphics became so important to me was the moment I opened the magazine and saw the Ray Bones Rodriguez graphic. That changed everything.
Why?
The skull and sword, because there was nothing like that. When you saw that graphic come out, like you just sat there and stared at it. It didn't make any sense. It was on a completely different level.
Yeah.
So when I saw that, and I in my little kid mind, like, gosh, if I ever get to the point where I can have something on the bottom of a board, it's got to matter.
Got
know?
you.
And why wouldn't you want it to matter? It's going to be on the shelf. People are going to look at it, you know? Like, you want it to have a good shape. You want it to be colorful. You want a good graphic. These are all different selling points that you want to have. So I would see people that would just put their name on the board or something, and I would just think to myself, like, why? Like, why wouldn't they spend more time in doing something that was going to have more longevity to it?
It's funny to listen to this because I feel like you have such a creative mind, but also like a marketing mind back then too. Like
Yeah,
you
but-
understood how to
But it wasn't-
gravitate people towards
Yeah,
your product.
I know, and it's weird, but it wasn't like I wasn't thinking of money or anything
Yeah.
like that. It was just fun.
Yeah.
It's still fun for me. Like I still have ideas of things that I want to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, that's just me as a kid. Like it's being able to act like a kid and putting these things out that show your personality, you know?
For sure. And I think in skating, personality is so important.
Yeah.
You know?
That was another thing that was super fun about the 80s is just everybody was doing their own thing. Everybody, and then like I look at the 90s and things like that and like, why is everybody dressing the same? Why does everybody have the same look, the same hair? Like everything was like, I never understood that. Like, are they are these guys trying to turn skateboarding into like an official sport or something?
It's interesting because
You know what I
I
mean?
almost think it was like people like it just started to come in, and then everybody gravitated toward that because I wanted to be like Eric Costin. I wanted to be like these guys, and they dress that way. So I'm going to wear the white tee, polo shirt with the long belt. I mean, I don't know. That's the only way I could kind of explain it.
That's the visual influence.
Which makes complete sense. Yes.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, but it was more bland.
Yeah. So
the colors went away.
It was weird for me because, like, obviously I'm just still stuck in the 80s. I keep that going. So when I saw this come on, I'm like, why did everybody shave their head? Why is everybody wearing it? Like, I didn't understand it. It was weird to me.
Yeah.
Right.
I was like, but whatever, to each their own. It wasn't a bad thing. I just didn't understand it.
For sure. Which graphic is this one? We have this one.
So that's right after the genie came out. So that's their trip. Oh, wait a minute. No, it's not, because the witch is in that one.
They're on a trip.
Yeah.
He really brings it all back together.
That's tight.
They're on a trip.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
always thinking about the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, it's like I forgot because the witch came out after the genie, and then they went on a trip. And then there's...
Oh,
Are
so
we talking about
there's okay, the three, they all meet, and then someone else comes.
Exactly.
The witch has its own graphic, and then the witch comes into their. Okay,
you got it. That's how it went. See, it's like when you said that, like I could have brought all of them and lined them up, but I was just like, I don't know how much stuff to bring. So, anyways, yes, they all do tell a story.
That's
though.
right.
That's so sick.
that is really cool.
I wonder, and that's my question. I wonder if people caught on to that.
And see, I have no idea because it's like people aren't writing me letters to talk about that or anything. You know what I mean? So I have no idea.
Well, maybe in this episode, if people leave comments, and say that I got that, or maybe I didn't get that, I had no clue.
Or
it could be
or
good.
even if they think it's fun to now go back and look at him and go, oh, I kind of get it. Like
There
here's
they
what was
are.
happening there, you know?
Right.
And that was the witch.
There's
and
the witch.
But there's all those little things, you know what I mean? Like there's a little frog in there. There's so many little teeny details in there that I went for everything. But and that was, that was my kind of cult gothic Kevin right there coming through with a witch. And they're like, you can't put a witch on a skateboard. Dudes aren't going to buy that. I'm like, I'm doing it anyways. It worked. It's still, they all
It's gonna work. It's gonna work.
Yeah,
guys.
so it's just you just have to make an evil character is how I figure.
It's just an evil,
It just has to be an evil looking character. It's skateboarding. That's how it goes, right? That's what we like.